Deep in the snow-capped peaks of the Austrian Alps, a royal secret is being guarded at £2,000 a night. Sarah Ferguson, the former Duchess of York, isn't just on a luxury retreat, she is effectively in hiding. While she seeks refuge in an elite clinic, a £19 million financial collapse is tearing through the British press, exposing unexplained loans and paper trails that lead directly to her door. From the shock of a royal eviction to the surfacing of unsealed messages that have left the palace in a state of panic, the walls are finally closing in on the woman who thought she could outrun her past. You'll want to stay until the very end of this one, because the final piece of evidence we've uncovered, a desperate plea found in the latest document dump, changes everything we thought we knew about her survival. If you enjoy deep dives into the stories the headlines are afraid to touch, I'd be honored to have you join our community. Just tap that subscribe button and stay tuned. But for now, let's look at the trail of debt that led a duchess to the brink of ruin. A £19 million empire has just vanished into thin air, and the woman at the center of it is nowhere to be found. While creditors and investigators circle her empty London properties, Sarah Ferguson has reportedly retreated to the high-altitude silence of the Austrian Alps. She isn't just taking a holiday. According to sources, she is currently stationed at an elite health clinic that costs an eye-watering £2,000 every single night. But this isn't about wellness, it's about survival. Insiders say this alpine hideout is a desperate attempt to stay out of the spotlight while the most significant financial scandal of her life reaches a breaking point. For years, she managed to balance on a tightrope of debt, but in May 2026, the rope finally snapped. The story being whispered in legal circles is one of total humiliation. It is claimed that while a major theatre investment firm was spiraling toward a massive collapse, Sarah was allegedly receiving unexplained loans totaling more than £500,000. Where did that money go? Some believe it was funneled into a failing lifestyle brand, while others suggest it was used to maintain a facade of royal luxury that she simply couldn't afford. The investigators aren't backing down. A new liquidators report suggests they are planning a substantial recovery of those funds. If they succeed, the former Duchess won't just be out of a job. She could be facing a personal bankruptcy that would strip her of everything she has left. Rumors indicate that the panic behind the scenes is at an all-time high. She's already taken a massive hit on her real estate investments, but even a multi-million-pound fire sale hasn't been enough to stop the bleeding. The mountain air might be fresh, but it can't mask the scent of a crumbling dynasty. But as the financial walls close in, an even bigger threat is looming. The money is one thing, but the roof over her head was about to become the ultimate bargaining chip in a high-stakes game with the king himself. While the public saw Sarah Ferguson as a high-flying executive for a prestigious theatre investment firm, the reality behind the curtain was far more chaotic. When Gate Ventures finally imploded, it left behind a staggering £19 million debt that has sent shockwaves through the financial world. But it's the unexplained transactions that have investigators truly baffled. According to a May 2026 liquidators report, more than £500,000 in loans were handed out during Sarah's tenure as executive director. These weren't standard business expenses. It is claimed that these funds were moving through the company at a time when it was already bleeding cash. Insiders suggest that while the company was headed for a total collapse, the spending behind the scenes remained lavish and unchecked. The paper trail is now being picked apart piece by piece. Reports suggest that some of these loans were linked to a personal lifestyle brand that was struggling to stay afloat. It creates a picture of someone using one failing venture to keep another on life support. But you can only move money in circles for so long before the circle breaks. The liquidators are now laser-focused on a substantial recovery. This isn't just a corporate audit, it's a hunt for missing capital that could leave Sarah Ferguson personally liable for the shortfall. If the courts decide she was responsible for these unexplained payouts, the resulting legal bill could be the final nail in the coffin. Rumors indicate that the desperation to settle these debts led to some very questionable decisions. People are asking how a woman with so much experience in the public eye could let a £19 million hole open up under her feet. But as the financial investigators dig deeper, They're finding that the loss of her business reputation was only the beginning. While the bank accounts were being frozen, the king was preparing to deliver a blow that would hit much closer to home. The luxury lifestyle was about to lose its most important foundation, the front door to her own residence. The locks were changed and the grace period officially ended. In October 2025, King Charles did what many believed was impossible. He pulled the plug on Sarah Ferguson's life at Royal Lodge. For years, the massive Windsor estate served as her fortress, a symbol of a status she no longer technically held. But according to sources, the king's patience finally evaporated, leaving the former royal family members scrambling for a place to go. The eviction wasn't just a blow to her pride, it was a logistical nightmare. Insiders say the atmosphere behind palace walls was frosty as the deadline approached. This wasn't a suggestion, it was an ultimatum. But the real shock came when the public realized just how desperate her financial situation had become during the move. Reports suggest that a luxury apartment in London's ultra-exclusive Belgravia, which she had purchased as a safety net in 2022, was suddenly dumped onto the market. It wasn't a strategic sale, it was a fire sale. She had originally paid £4.25 million for the property, but by late 2025, it was sold for just £3.85 million. Taking a £400,000 loss in one of the world's most stable real estate markets is almost unheard of. It is claimed that the rush to liquidate the asset was driven by an immediate need for liquid cash to fend off circling creditors. Rumors indicate that even this massive sacrifice wasn't enough to clear the slate. Every move she made seemed to be a frantic attempt to stay one step ahead of total ruin. But as she walked away from the Belgravia Keys with nearly £500,000 less than she started with, the legal sharks were already scenting blood in the water. Selling the house was supposed to buy her time. Instead, it only signaled to the world that the coffers were empty. And while she tried to settle into a life without a permanent roof, a new report from May 2026 was about to land on her desk. One that would make a £400,000 loss look like pocket change. The clock has finally run out, and the B word is now being whispered in every corner of the palace. By May 2026, the financial shield Sarah Ferguson spent decades building has completely shattered. According to sources, she is now staring down a legal bill so massive it could force a formal declaration of bankruptcy, a move that would be a catastrophic first for a modern royal figure. This isn't just about one bad business deal anymore. Reports suggest that liquidators have shifted from auditing books to aggressive recovery. They are reportedly targeting personal assets to claw back the unexplained millions from the theatre firm's collapse. But the problem is deeper. Insiders claim there may be nothing left to claw back. The strategy of borrowing to pay the borrower has reached its natural end. It is believed that Sarah has spent the last few months frantically dissolving her remaining business interests. Filings from early 2026 show that 6 of her private companies, including firms like Fergie's Farm and La Luna Investments, were abruptly wound down. Rumors indicate this was a desperate clean-up mission to protect what little remains of her reputation. But as each company folder was closed, new questions emerged about where the initial capital came from. Every legal turn uncovers more creditors, more overdue invoices, and more skeletons in the financial closet. If she is forced into bankruptcy, the implications are chilling. Her personal accounts would be frozen, her luxury lifestyle would be dismantled by the courts, and every penny she earns would be monitored by trustees. It's a level of public exposure that the king is reportedly desperate to avoid. But as the liquidators close in, they aren't just finding unpaid bills, they are finding evidence of how she survived the lean years. The trail is leading away from bank statements and toward a series of newly unsealed messages that are far more damaging than any debt. The investigators were looking for money, but what they found were the words of a woman who was willing to promise anything to anyone just to keep the lights on. "I am at your service, just marry me." Those 7 words, typed in a moment of sheer panic, have sent shockwaves through the foundations of the monarchy. Newly unsealed messages from 2026 have finally pulled back the curtain on Sarah Ferguson's most dangerous alliance. According to sources, these emails aren't just gossip, they are a digital trail of absolute desperation. For years, the public wondered how she maintained a multi-million-pound lifestyle while drowning in debt. Now, the answer appears to be far more chilling than anyone imagined. It is claimed that during her darkest financial hours, she turned to the one man the rest of the world was trying to forget: Jeffrey Epstein. The messages suggest a woman on the edge. Reports indicate she wasn't just asking for a loan, she was allegedly begging for rent money to keep her world from crumbling. But it's the phrasing that has left insiders speechless. To tell a convicted offender, "I am at your service," suggests a level of debt that goes far beyond money. Rumors indicate that the palace is in a state of high alert as more of these documents are decrypted. Each line reveals a new layer of a relationship that was supposed to have ended years ago. It is believed that these pleas for help continued even as the walls of the law were closing in on Epstein himself. The question everyone is asking is, what exactly does "at your service" mean in the world of high-stakes influence? Sources say the files contain hints of favors and introductions that were traded for cold, hard cash. It wasn't just a friendship, it was a survival pact. The weight of these revelations is crushing. While the bank accounts are empty, the reputational cost is proving to be even higher. Sarah thought these emails would stay buried in a vault forever. Instead, they've become the evidence that could finally end the story of the Yorks as we know it. As the world digests the contents of these messages, the focus shifts from her past to her non-existent future. The former royal is now standing at the end of a very long, very dark road, with no more favors left to call in. The fairy tale has officially reached its final, darkest chapter, and there is no heroic rescue in sight. Sarah Ferguson's 30-year marathon of outrunning her creditors has finally hit a dead end. For decades, she was the master of the royal pivot, turning every scandal into a new business venture or a book deal. But insiders say that this time, the crown has finally stopped listening. The image of a former royal hiding in an alpine clinic while her properties are sold off at a loss marks a point of no return. It is believed that the family's inner circle has reached a consensus. The liability has simply become too high. Reports suggest that the king's decision to move her out of Windsor was more than just a real estate dispute. It was a formal severance of ties. The woman who once had the world at her feet is now allegedly facing a future of total financial transparency. A nightmare for someone whose life was built on unexplained loans and private favors. Sources indicate that if the bankruptcy filings proceed, every single transaction from the last decade will be dragged into the light of a public courtroom. But perhaps the biggest question remains. What happens when a person who has always lived on the world stage is suddenly left with no stage at all? Rumors indicate that Sarah is already looking for her next move, but with her reputation in tatters and her bank accounts frozen, the options are vanishing. Some say she is a survivor who has simply run out of luck. Others believe this collapse was inevitable the moment she reached out to the wrong people for help. Regardless of where you stand, the sight of a crumbling dynasty is something the world won't soon forget. The gates of the Alpine retreat will eventually have to open, and when they do, Sarah Ferguson will step out into a world that no longer recognizes her titles or her excuses. The £19 million question is, will she finally disappear into the shadows, or is there one last twist left in this story? Only time will tell if this is truly the end of the York era.